So here we are in Gloucester with Dee. Hi Dee.
Good morning.
Morning. So we're here on behalf of UKIP Gloucester campaigning, saying there's no such thing as a no deal, we can have a WTO deal, and we should leave on the 29th of March. Gloucester voted 58.5% to leave, and yet the Remain MP for Gloucester and the Remain Prime Minister Theresa May have wasted 2.5 years. What do you think about it, Dee?
I think it's frustrating for all of us to be sitting and waiting, and it's as if we are in an undulating situation where we're riding the waves every time we hear the news. I personally remember the first referendum before we joined.
75, 97.
Yes, yeah.
You didn't look old enough.
I am old enough, trust me. And I do remember how close the points were. In a way, we should have had a reread then, but we didn't. It swung mostly to the British people not wanting to join Europe.
But how do you feel about the fact that you voted 2.5 years ago on the 23rd of June 2016? It's now the 2nd of February 2019, and the Conservative government has basically done what?
Well,
nothing.
Well, they've been busy, yes. The government's been busy, of course, they always are. But I think it's very worrying when we're so close to March. And fingers crossed.
Well, there is a thing called a WTO deal, which means that we've always kept our seat, the UK, at the WTO, World Trade Organization. That started after the Second World War in 1947, and it's the biggest trade organization in the world. 164 countries out of 190 countries are members, and we can trade on WTO terms. So people like the Labour and Conservative parties, when they say no deal, are misleading the public. The default position is to leave on WTO terms, so please don't be afraid. The biggest growth in the world is outside the European Union, in the third world.
Of course we can arrange a deal. That's what politics is about. Parley, to speak, to sit and discuss it. And that's what should be carried on.
Thank you very much indeed. Good to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Can't shake your hand because you haven't got a hand left. Goodbye. All the best.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. So, there you go. People fed up. Let's just get on with it. Richard Graham, MP for Gloucester, get on with it. Theresa May, get on with it. Labour, Conservative, Labour and Liberal Democratic parties, get on with it. Only UKIP for leave in Gloucester, in Gloucestershire and in the UK. Vote UKIP. Leave. So here we are, still in Gloucester here on this very cold February morning, and I'm with a young man, Lee, who lives in Gloucester. He's at Gloucester College, and of course, well, the reason I joined UKIP is because I've got kids and I want a future in our country for my children and everybody else's children. My children are a bit older than Lee. They're in their 20s. I suspect Lee's a bit younger than that. But I'd just like to say to Lee, as a young person, what do you think we should do? What do you think about the fact that, obviously not you, your mum and dad, gran and granddad voted to leave the European Union 2.5 years ago on the 23rd of June 2016. Since then, the Conservative MP for Gloucester, Richard Graham, has not put pressure on the Conservative government to leave the European Union. How do you feel as a young person about that?
Well, I feel that we need to move on and prosper without the EU. We need to get like our borders back, have control of our sovereignty and make our own laws instead of being controlled by the bureaucracy of the European Union. And the generations who vote for leave, I congratulate on doing so because they thought about a future and the movement of the British people.
Well, I think that's a very good point, Lee. I mean, certainly, as I just said, that's what motivated me, and I know many people of my age who've got grown-up children or older than me who've got grandchildren. They want a future, and I'm sure your family the same. And they want employment. They want our young people to be able to buy their own home, to have a national health service to go to. They want our young people to be able to have a job, to learn a trade, to have an education without college debt. As so many generations had since the Second World War into the 50s, in my generation, for example. And I think Lee's generation is the first generation since the First World War that's going to be less well off than their parents' generation, and that's wrong. And there's only UKIP fighting here in Gloucester, in Gloucestershire, in the UK, for our young people, for the future jobs, prosperity, for the National Health Service. The Conservative Party, the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats, the Greens are all for Remain. They all want the country to have its borders completely open. We can't continue in the same way. Fight for a future for Britain. Fight for a future for Gloucester. Fight for a future for Lee. What do you think, Lee?
Well, I think that's correct, and we need to leave the European Union on 29th of March on WTO rules, and we need to do free trade with like America instead, like backlashing them out kind of thing. And we need to just work with the rest of Europe, but not in a way that we're tied to them and completely under their control, especially for Germany.
So thank you very much indeed. And let's not forget, there's no such thing as a no deal. WTO terms exist. We are a member. The UK's always been a member of the WTO. 164 countries out of 190 countries. It's the biggest trading organisation in the world. We voted to leave. Mrs May, Mr Graham, MP for Gloucester, vote to leave the European Union on the 29th of March 2019 on WTO terms. There's no such thing as a no deal. Thank you very much indeed.